Hi everyone! In today's video I just wanted to quickly go through what the grade boundaries could be for this year's set of A-level psychology exams. A few people had commented on some of my other videos asking what I thought, so I just thought I'd put this quickly together just so you can have a look. So from what I'm about to show you, you'll see that the grade boundaries do generally change from year to year, but it's never a complete drastic change in that it's kind of like 10 marks different, because I don't think they are actually allowed to do this. So you can kind of get a gist of what the grade boundaries could be this year. So on screen now, I've just put up the 2017 grade boundaries. So you can see that all of the papers are of course out of 96, and to get an A star you needed to get 74 in paper 1, 74 in paper 2 and then 69 in paper 3. And that's actually quite a big difference, those 5 marks between the A-level grade boundary for paper 1 and 2 compared to paper 3. I've also just put here the percentages out of 96 which each of these marks are. So for example, in order to get an A star in paper 1 and paper 2, you had to get 77.1% of the marks, and then in paper 3 you just had to get 71.9% of the marks. And then I've just kind of done the same thing for a grade C, because this is what hopefully you're all at least aiming for. So for a C, again the paper grade boundaries were quite different for paper 1 and 2 compared to paper 3. This time there was a 7 mark difference between paper 2 and for paper 3. And again for a C, I've just put the percentages that you needed. So for paper 1 you needed 47.9%, paper 2 was 49%, and paper 3 was 41.7%. And actually all of these grade boundaries are below 50%, so you could have missed out 2 whole sections of the paper, and as long as you got full marks everywhere else, you still would have got a C. And I think that just puts into perspective how lenient this year's grade boundaries were. And then here you've got the 2018 grade boundaries, and as you can see I've done a similar kind of thing, just working out the percentages for each paper for what you needed to get an A star and what you needed to get a C. You'll notice that the grade boundaries are slightly different in that the 2018 grade boundaries are a few marks lower than that of 2017, and this just reflects the fact that it was a newer A-level style type exam because there was no AS for this year, and it also reflects possibly that the papers were perhaps a little bit harder. So looking at this, it generally looks as though people found paper 2 the hardest, just because these grade boundaries, at least for an A star and an A, were a little bit lower than the other 2 grade boundaries. And to just put this into perspective for you, to still get an A star in paper 1 and paper 3, you could have lost 24 marks, and that's a whole section. So you could have missed out on a whole section, and as long as you got full marks everywhere else, then you could have still got an A star. But of course, I'm not taken away from the fact that it is actually really hard to only lose 24 marks, because when you think about it, if you, for example, lose 4 marks for each 16-mark essay, because realistically, who gets full marks in every 16-mark essay? Like, it just doesn't happen. But say you had 3 16-mark questions on a paper, and you got an average of 12 marks per 16-mark question, that's already 12 marks lost across just 3 16-mark questions, let alone all the small answer questions such as research methods, where you have absolutely no idea what's going on. And so, in no way am I saying that you should all be getting A stars because you can lose 24 marks, because actually 24 marks isn't that much, as I've just said, and there are so many factors that affect your performance within an exam. I mean, the fact that it's an exam itself is just ridiculous because it's so stressful, and that stress really does affect your performance. You may lose less than 24 marks in a mock, but that doesn't mean you'll do the same in an exam because you've just got that added pressure, and it's that one chance you've got, and it's just so much stress. And I don't think exam boards really take into account how stressful exams are. I mean, exams are just disgusting. So whatever you get, you have done really well, and as long as you know you've put in the revision, you really do deserve a good grade. And I do think we'll see a similar trend to this in this year's grade boundaries, because it did generally seem that people did find paper 2 the hardest, and looking at some of the questions I completely agree, but some of the questions were just really, I don't know, out there I guess, in comparison to the other 2 papers at least. And so I do think this will be reflected within the grade boundaries. So here I've pretty much just summed up everything I've already said. So just to reiterate, I do think that paper 2 could have the lowest grade boundaries, as people did generally seem to find this paper the hardest. I mean, paper 3 did of course have those 3 16-mark questions and 8-mark questions, so this could possibly be a little bit lower as well, just because people may not have had time to answer all of these questions and so may have missed out on some questions. But last year, our paper 1 had 3 16-mark questions in, and actually the grade boundaries weren't any lower. So I guess it does depend on the individual paper. I've also put here that I think all grade boundaries will be slightly higher than last year, and so I think these will probably be similar to 2017, and this is just because you've had you've had a few more years worth of past papers, and last year was the first year where we didn't have the AS and then A2 exams. So this year it's just not as new. So I do think that the grade boundaries will be slightly higher, but only by a few marks per paper. And so, with all of that being said, I just want to say a huge good luck to all of you when getting your exam results in the summer. I mean, I'm sure you'll do really, really well. If you do miss out on your university choice, don't worry. Like, there's always clearing. You can always take a gap year. Like, it's not the end of the world. I mean, all unis are good in their own way. So, really, really just don't worry about it. Enjoy your summer. It's one of the longest summers you'll get, one of the least stressful summers you'll get. You know, look forward to Stranger Things that comes out on the 4th of July, and just have fun, have a good time.